welcome back. It's Wednesday. I got a shower and a shaving, and the last like 2 weeks I made like more than 150 videos about gliders, aircraft. So I think I should take a small break to do that today. I just eat a little bread now and put it on video in my language studies. I need to put it public. So now I got a little food to eat. So I've been uploading a lot of videos the last 2 weeks, but I always do that. I have soon 40,000 videos, and I have 100 pages, got 3-4,000 Wikipedia. That would be another 10,000 video if I ever read all this. So, but I think I like to read this. It's 3 p.m. I got a lot of stuff I like to read, but I have to only read one by one. Now I maybe have to sit in my apartment alone rest of my life, so I got plenty of time. I have plenty of time to reading, because I have to spend my whole life alone in apartments, low on money. So why not read something I like, and not just spending my time to watch YouTube videos or Netflix or play computer games. So yes, maybe I should. Yes, I have to read because the screen is far away. So maybe, but that's maybe I don't know, no, not like this or this. Yes, but let's read like this, because my eyes are old and tired. Activate voice, then I will just read this.
History of aviation. The Wright military flyer aboard a wagon in 1908 French reconnaissance balloon L'Intrépide of 1796, the oldest existing flying device, in the Heeresgeschichte Likes Museum, Vienna. Leonardo da Vinci's ornithopter. The history of aviation extends for more than 2,000 years, from the earliest forms of aviation such as kites and attempts at away jumping to supersonic and hypersonic flight by powered heavier-than-air jets. Kite flying in China dates back to several hundred years BC and slowly spread around the world. It is thought to be the earliest example of man-made flight. Leonardo da Vinci's 15th century dream of flight found expression in several rational designs, which relied on poor science. In the late 18th century, the Montgolfier brothers invented the hot air balloon and began manned flights. At almost the same time, the discovery of hydrogen gas led to the invention of the hydrogen balloon. 1. Various theories in mechanics by physicists during the same period of time, notably fluid dynamics and Newton's laws of motion, led to the foundation of modern aerodynamics, most notably by Sir George Cayley. Balloons, both free-flying and tethered, began to be used for military purposes from the end of the 18th century, with the French government establishing balloon companies during the Revolution. 2. Experiments with gliders provided the groundwork for learning the dynamics of heavier-than-air craft, most notably by Cayley, Otto Lilienthal and Octave Charnute. By the early 20th century, advances in engineering technology and aerodynamics made controlled, powered flight possible for the first time. In 1903, following their pioneering research and experiments with wing design and aircraft control, the Wright brothers successfully incorporated all of the required elements to create and fly the first airplane. The basic configuration with its characteristic tail was established by 1909, followed by rapid design and performance improvements aided by the development of more powerful engines. The first great ships of the air were the rigid dirigible balloons pioneered by Ferdinand von Zeppelin, which soon became synonymous with airships and dominated long-distance flight until the 1930s, when larger flying boats became popular. After World War II, the flying boats were in their turn replaced by land planes, and the new and immensely powerful jet engine revolutionized both air travel and military aviation. In the latter part of the 20th century, the advent of digital electronics produced great advances in flight instrumentation and fly-by-wire systems. The 21st century saw the large-scale use of pilotless drones for military, civilian and leisure use. With digital controls, inherently unstable aircraft such as flying wings became possible. Etymology. The term aviation, noun of action from stem of Latin avis bird with suffix ation meaning action or progress, was coined in 1863 by French pioneer Guillaume Joseph Gabriel de la Landau, 1812-1886, in aviation ou navigation aérienne sans balance. 3, 4. Primitive beginnings. Tower jumping. Daedalus working on Icarus wings. Since antiquity, there have been stories of men strapping bird-like wings, stiffened cloaks or other devices to themselves and attempting to fly, typically by jumping off a tower. The Greek legend of Daedalus and Icarus, one of the earliest known, winking sad smiley 5, others originated from ancient Asia, 6, and the European Middle Age. During this early period, the issues of lift stability and control were not understood, and most attempts ended in serious injury or death. The Andalusian scientist Abbas ibn Firnas, 810-887 AD, is claimed to have made a jump in Córdoba, Spain, covering his body with vulture feathers and attaching 2 wings to his arms. 7, 8. The 17th century Algerian historian Ahmed Mohamed al-Makari, quoting a poem by Muhammad I of Córdoba's 9th century court poet Mu'min ibn Said, recounts that Firnas flew some distance before landing with some injuries attributed to his lacking a tail, as birds used to land. 7, 9. Writing in the 12th century, William of Malmesbury stated that the 11th century Benedictine monk Aylmer of Malmesbury attached wings to his hands and feet and flew a short distance, 7, but broke both legs while landing, also having neglected to make himself a tail. 9. Many others made well-documented jumps in the following centuries. As late as 1811, Albrecht Berblinger constructed an ornithopter and jumped into the Danube at Ulm. 10. Kites. The kite may have been the first form of man-made aircraft. 1. It was invented in China possibly as far back as the 5th century BC by Mozi, Mo Di, and Lu Ban, Gongshu Ban. 11. Later designs often emulated flying insects, birds, and other beasts, both real and mythical. Some were fitted with strings and whistles to make musical sounds while flying. 12, 13, 14. Ancient and medieval Chinese sources describe kites being used to measure distances, test the wind, lift men, signal, and communicate and send messages. 15. Woodcut print of a kite from John Bates' 1635 book The Mysteries of Nature and Art. Kites spread from China around the world. After its introduction into India, the kite further evolved into the fighter kite, which has an abrasive line used to cut down other kites. Man-carrying kites. Man-carrying kites are believed to have been used extensively in ancient China, for both civil and military purposes, and sometimes enforced as a punishment. An early recorded flight was that of the prisoner Yuan Huangtu, a Chinese prince, in the 6th century AD. 16. Stories of man-carrying kites also occur in Japan, following the introduction of the kite from China around the 7th century AD. It is said that at one time there was a Japanese law against men carrying kites. 17. Rotor wings. The use of a rotor for vertical flight has existed since 400 BC in the form of the bamboo copter, an ancient Chinese toy. 18. 19. The similar molinet a noi, rotor on a nut, appeared in Europe in the 14th century AD. 20. Hot air balloons. From ancient times the Chinese have understood that hot air rises and have applied the principle to a type of small hot air balloon called a sky lantern. A sky lantern consists of a paper balloon under or just inside which a small lamp is placed. Sky lanterns are traditionally launched for pleasure and during festivals. According to Joseph Needham, such lanterns were known in China from the 3rd century BC. Their military use is attributed to the general Zhu Liang, 180–234 AD, honorific title Kongming, who is said to have used them to scare the enemy troops. 21. There is evidence that the Chinese also solved the problem of aerial navigation using balloons, hundreds of years before the 18th century. 22. Renaissance. One of Leonardo's sketches eventually, after Ibn Furnaz's construction, some investigators began to discover and define some of the basics of rational aircraft design. Most notable of these was Leonardo da Vinci, although his work remained unknown until 1797, and so had no influence on developments over the next 300 years. While his designs are rational, they are not scientific. 23. He particularly underestimated the amount of power that would be needed to propel a flying object. 24. Basing his designs on the flapping wings of a bird rather than an engine-powered propeller. 25. Leonardo studied bird and bat flight. 24. Claiming the superiority of latter owing to its unperforated wing. 26. He analyzed these and anticipating many principles of aerodynamics. He understood that an object offers as much resistance to the air as the air does to the object. 27. Isaac Newton would not publish his third law of motion until 1687. From the last years of the 15th century until 1505. 24. Leonardo wrote about and sketched many designs for flying machines and mechanisms, including ornithopters, fixed-wing gliders, rotorcraft, perhaps inspired by whirligig toys, parachutes, in the form of a wooden-framed pyramidal tent, and a wind speed gauge. 24. His early designs were man-powered and included ornithopters and rotorcraft, however he came to realize the impracticality of this and later turned to controlled gliding flight, also sketching some designs powered by a spring. 28. In an essay titled Sul Volo, on flight, Leonardo describes a flying machine called the bird which he built from starched linen, leather joints, and raw silk thongs. In the Codex Atlanticus, he wrote, "Tomorrow morning, on the 2nd day of January, 1496, I will make the thong and the attempt." 25. According to one commonly repeated, albeit presumably fictional story, in 1505 Leonardo or one of his pupils attempted to fly from the summit of Monte Ciceri. 24. Lighter than air. Beginnings of modern theories. In 1670, Francesco Lana de Terzi published a work that suggested lighter than air flight would be possible by using copper foil spheres that, containing a vacuum, would be lighter than the displaced air to lift an airship. While theoretically sound, his design was not feasible. The pressure of the surrounding air would crush the spheres. The idea of using a vacuum to produce lift is now known as vacuum airship but remains unfeasible with any current materials. In 1709, Bartolomeu de Gusmão presented a petition to King John V of Portugal, begging for support for his invention of an airship, in which he expressed the greatest confidence. The public test of the machine, which was set for the 24th of June, 1709, did not take place. According to contemporary reports, however, Gusmão appears to have made several less ambitious experiments with this machine, descending from eminences. It is certain that Gusmão was working on this principle at the public exhibition he gave before the court on 8 August 1709, in the hall of the Casa de India in Lisbon, when he propelled a ball to the roof by combustion. Balloons. 1783 was a watershed year for ballooning and aviation. Between the 4th of June and the 1st of December, 5 aviation firsts were achieved in France. On the 4th of June, the Montgolfier brothers demonstrated their unmanned hot air balloon at Annonay, France. On the 27th of August, Jacques Charles and the Robert brothers, Les Frères Robert, launched Thiebaud's first unmanned hydrogen-filled balloon, from the Champ de Mars, Paris. On the 19th of October, the Montgolfiers launched the first manned flight, a tethered balloon with humans on board, at the Folie Teton in Paris. The aviators were the scientist Jean-François Pilote de Rozier, the manufacture manager Jean-Baptiste Réveillon, and Giraud de Villette. On the 21st of November, the Montgolfiers launched the first free flight with human passengers. King Louis XVI had originally decreed that condemned criminals would be the first pilots, but Jean-François Pilote de Rozier, along with the Marquis François d'Orléans, successfully petitioned for the honor. They drifted 8 kilometers, 5.0 mi, in a balloon powered by a wood fire. Lithographic depiction of pioneering events, 1783 to 1846. On the 1st of December, Jacques Charles and Nicolas Louis Robert launched the manned hydrogen balloon from the Jardin des Tuileries in Paris, as a crowd of 400,000 witnessed. They ascended to a height of about 1,800 feet, 550 m, 15, and landed at sunset in Essels-la-Vallée after a flight of 2 hours and 5 minutes. Covering 36 kilometers after Robert alighted, Charles decided to ascend alone. This time he ascended rapidly to an altitude of about 9,800 feet, 3,000 m, where he saw the sun again, suffered extreme pain in his ears, and never flew again. Ballooning became a major rage in Europe in the late 18th century, providing the first detailed understanding of the relationship between altitude and the atmosphere. Non-steerable balloons were employed during the American Civil War by the Union Army Balloon Corps. The young Ferdinand von Zeppelin first flew as a balloon passenger with Union Army of the Potomac in 1863. In the early 1900s, ballooning was a popular sport in Britain. These privately owned balloons usually used coal gas as the lifting gas. This has half the lifting power of hydrogen, so the balloons had to be larger. However, coal gas was far more readily available, and the local gas works sometimes provided a special lightweight formula for ballooning events. 29. Airships. La France flying in 1885. Airships were originally called dirigible balloons and are still sometimes called dirigibles today. Work on developing a steerable, or dirigible, balloon continued sporadically throughout the 19th century. The first powered, controlled, sustained lighter-than-air flight is believed to have taken place in 1852 when Henry Giffard flew 15 miles, 24 kilometers, in France with a steam engine-driven craft. Another advance was made in 1884, when the first fully controllable free flight was made in a French Army electric-powered airship, La France, by Charles Renaud and Arthur Krebs. The 170-foot, 52 m, long, 66,000 cubic foot, 1,900 cubic meters, airship covered 8 kilometers, 5.0 mi, in 23 minutes with the aid of an 8.5 horsepower electric motor. However, these aircraft were generally short-lived and